I think in light of that, I would like now to ask that the panelists introduce themselves. And so, yeah, I can see the recording has begun. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. And so I ask that the panelists in this specific order, please introduce themselves. So first, I can see we have Murunga BMW, who will be the first panel to speak. Thereafter, we have Honorable, apologies for that, Honorable Victor Omwebu, who I have also seen on the call. Thereafter, we'll have George introduce himself, and then finally we will have Faith. So kindly, Mr. Murunga, if you could introduce yourself for the people to know you. Thank you, and karibu sana.
Thank you very much. You can hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can, sir.
All right, yes. You've already said my name, so I'm not sure that I should repeat it. But I'm Murunga BMW. I have the distinct honor bestowed upon me by the Judicial Service Commission to chair the Sports Disputes Tribunal. I don't know whether I need to say more to that or whether we can speak more during the session.
Yeah, we can definitely. You'll have a 15-minute allocation, so that should be perfectly fine. You'll have more than enough time to introduce yourself. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Glory.
Okay, thank you. Honorable. Oh, thank you so much, Honorable Murunga. I apologize. I think I mixed up your honors. Yes, Mahesh. I apologize. I really do. Yeah. On to Honorable Victor Omwebu. If you are with us, kindly request that you may unmute your mic.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Victor Mwebu. Don't be overly concerned about the honorables. I'm fine. Just being called Mr. I'm a member of the Sports Disputes Tribunal, and I'm glad to join you this afternoon for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Mwebu. George, Mr. George Odwar, if you're on the platform. Mr. George Odwar, are you on the platform? I can see Michael Peter Odwar, but I cannot see George. Okay, that's all right. Miss Cloudy, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, my name is Faith Niva Cloudy. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, currently a legal officer at Kituo Cha Sheria's Forced Migration Program, and I'm happy to take part in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faith. And so I'll just go straight into the discussion that we are going to have today. So the first panelist, who's Honorable Murunga, that I will invite to give us a presentation for about 15 minutes. If you could kindly, I can see the fourth panelist is here. So before we delve into that, perhaps Honorable Murunga, you could be preparing yourself. Your presentation will be the role of sports in world peace. And so we'd love to hear from you as to what that entails. But just before that, I can see that George has been able to join. So if you could, George, if you can hear us, please introduce yourself to the people. Hello, George. George, we can't seem to hear you.
Excuse me, Glory. George is working on his device. He'll join us in a few.
Okay, that's all right. All right, so so I think I'll just invite Honorable Murunga to oh, you're unable. Okay, that's all right. I think when the time comes, you'll be able to introduce yourself, but that's all right. Honorable Murunga, you have the floor. Would love to hear your presentation about the role of sports and the role of sports and what it has done when it comes to world peace. Thank you so much, and you have the floor.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I think what you're just looking at on the screen is, you know, there is a football there, and there are people shaking hands. That's basically, you know, people making peace. But just before I delve into that, perhaps you'll also just allow me to mention one or two things about the role that the Sports Disputes Tribunal plays in this conversation. The Sports Disputes Tribunal was set up in 2013, specifically for resolution of sports disputes within the country. Before that, we didn't have a specific forum that would resolve matters in that very important industry that we call sports. But when the Sports Act was enacted in 2013, then we have the Sports Act, and under it, under Section 55, the Sports Disputes Tribunal is established. We then also have the jurisdiction that is granted to the tribunal under Section 58 to basically handle matters. And the one that I will really emphasize on is the fact that it also talks about sports-related disputes, meaning that something that is related to sports is something that the tribunal will then be able to handle. In 2016, we then had the Anti-Doping Act that was also enacted, that then brought the doping violations also under the Sports Disputes Tribunal. And it was when we were dealing with matters in the doping section that we realized that a lot of the athletes did not have counsel who would speak for them. And then we entered into an MOU with Kituo Cha Sheria that I think it actually part of the thing that we are supposed to do under the MOU is to speak towards certain collaboration, like in this particular event. Now, April 6th is designated as the United Nations Day for Sport Development and Peace. And the reason why 6th was chosen, because the Olympic Games started in Athens in 1896, and they actually commenced on 6th of April of 1896. And so, you know, Glory was talking about the various sports that are captured under the regime of sports, other than padel, and you know, the ones that we know about football, and some of them are depicted here. When I joined the tribunal, I realized that there are so many other sports. I don't know whether some of you have heard of kabaddi. There is chukball. We even have a federation called Kenya Walking Football Federation. So we actually have about 150 federations that are registered within the country since 2013, when the Sports Act was enacted. And that then means that we also have a lot of athletes that are under the regime of sports, being regulated by the sports registrar. But for us to also then appreciate these, maybe we need to look at two things. What is sports and what is peace? Sports is defined under the Sports Act to include recreational and competitive activities. So you will find that even something like darts, you know, where you don't actually have a lot of physical energy that is expended, is also still captured as a sport. Even going to the gym is actually captured as a sport. And so I thought, and then of course peace. There are people who say that peace is basically the absence of war. It's I mean probably a very controversial definition of the word peace. But when you look at what George Orwell then said, that sport is war minus the shooting, I think there's a lot of competition in sports and a lot of competitive advantages that teams try to gain. And sometimes it actually speaks towards war. And I've seen the Kenya Football Federation some time back, Football Kenya Federation, there was a time they actually had a poster in the dressing room saying this is war, when they are going to play a football match. So there is this, people equating sports to war, and therefore really the antithesis of peace. But again, there's these three quotes that I thought are very appropriate for us to start looking at the issues of sport and peace. That where there is peace, there is sports, and where there is sports, there is peace. There are moments when you'll find that even when nations are at war, you find that sometimes they actually even call a truce just so that sports can actually take place. And that is what I think that quote is also speaking towards. And of course, I'll also give an illustration of Nelson Mandela, what he said about sport, that sport has the power to change the world. But while sport has the power to change the world, then we also need to look at peace. What about peace? How does sport and peace intertwine? How do we pick peace as the options that sport should actually be bringing to us? When I was looking at this quote, there are a few things that I just thought I should highlight. First, that as I've mentioned, a lot of sports is competitive. I don't think we have a lot of leisurely sports activities that are happening. And I feel that even when you look at, even the recent African Cup of Nations that just took place, that is basically teams from different nations taking part in a competition, but it's very competitive. And sometimes people want to win at all costs. I think that is why you find certain athletes even using doping, for instance, so that they can win, because of the competitive nature of sports. And when it comes to sports between different nations, which is now called international sport, then of course it leads to a certain, there are certain enmity that is created within those countries when they are participating in sport. But what I think is important for us is to then appreciate how then do we make sports something that is more, something that is even friendly to the families. You find that when football matches are being played in this country, for instance, if it's a football match between AFC Leopards and Gor Mahia, you will find that the police have to be at the ground. They have to actually form a barrier between the fans so that they don't clash. Sometimes you find that if a decision is taken on the field, you end up finding instances of hooliganism, and we've even had fans dying in the stadium because of those sort of incidents. That cannot be the object of sport. Sport cannot be used as a means in which people lose lives, for instance. Sport should not be a matter of life and death. It's something that should go back to being what we will call something that people enjoy. That's generally the nature of sports, to be enjoyed. I have a few illustrations of just how sport and peace can actually integrate. In 1914, on Christmas Eve, that was during the First World War, various soldiers who are taking part in this actually stopped the war and paused it for purposes of playing a football match and just having a day of peace. So Christmas Day of 1914, so various soldiers, the Germans and the English, even joining and singing carols together like Silent Night. There is actually an advert from Sainsbury's. If you can just go and watch it on YouTube, it actually depicts what actually happened on that day in 1914. You can imagine people at war pausing, and when they paused the war, for that one day, I mean, they resumed the hostilities the following day, but they were able to even play football. That just shows you the power of sport, that sport can actually bring people together. In 1995, there's also the incident where Nelson Mandela, the president who had just been released from prison where he had stayed for a very long time, he did a gesture that a lot of people feel is something that helped what we call the Rainbow Nation of South Africa because of the different, races that are there. What happened was that, a lot of the people who played rugby in South Africa for the Springboks were white, but he felt that he can actually use that to bring the country together. This was the third World Cup for rugby that was being played. And South Africa had been banned from the previous World Cups, the one in 1987 and 1991, because of apartheid. But in 1995, the first time they were entering the competition, they were actually the hosts. And there are people who even say that the name should be changed from being the Springboks because it was reminding them of apartheid. But he was able to use sport to bring the country together. Even though there was only, I think, one black player, Chester Williams, there was a lot of blacks who came out to actually just, cheer the Springboks, and they actually won. And there's actually a whole movie about this, the Invictus movie. The fact that South Africa could come together. Mandela was there actually even wearing the shirt of the captain, Pina. That just shows you how sport can bring the whole nation came together. And I think the fact that this was just coming after the elections in 1994, this World Cup was being held in 1995, it just shows you the power in which sport can actually play. This one is close to me because this was a team that that I formed in 2008, just after the post-election violence. We had a team that was formed in Kibera called Our Kid Football Club. It actually played in the colors. If you look at the colors there was red, white, green, and black. Basically, the colors of our national flag. And this was one of the things that brought this, where you found that people were taking arms against their neighbors. You found that some people's houses were being burned, but they came together. And one of the things that I actually really appreciated was seeing kids who would actually, if there was an incident that happened in another neighborhood, they would actually ask what has actually happened to my teammate, bringing football, using football to actually bring just the community together. But well, while we talk about sport being a unifier, we also appreciate that sport also can actually be something that can also then bring a lot of clashes between nations, as I've just mentioned. A lot of sport is usually non-aligned, and you'll find that a lot of international federations, for instance, they say that those participants, the athletes, should not actually have political messages. Is that a good or is it a bad thing? If somebody wants to speak out against a war, and then maybe if they score a goal and lift their shirt for that message, they usually get punished because of the non-alignment of sport. But at the same time, when we talk about non-alignment of sport, you can see that sport, for instance, in the apartheid era, was actually being withdrawn from South Africa because of and sometimes you can actually look at it as something that helped the cause for the fight against apartheid. You found that a lot of sport also, and I think Honorable Mwebu will speak more about this, of how countries in Africa sometimes have actually used sports. You find that countries that have challenges in democracy are, however, using now sport as a way of pacifying people. There's a book by Steve Bloomfield that actually discusses, how football explains Africa, how Africa, if you look at the different nations and their football culture, it actually tells you a lot of things. But again, sport can be used as diplomacy. In football, you find that when matches are taking place that are not competitive, they are called friendly matches. The fact that the word friendly is used, it actually also just brings together nations, so that you can understand that, what is just happening is just a game on the pitch. But yet sport also brings out the pride, the fact that the national anthem is being played at the matches. in Africa, sometimes you will find if a team qualifies for the World Cup, people are saying we are supporting the African team, which is usually a very interesting dynamic, because in certain countries in the Western world, you will find that sometimes they actually then say we are not supporting our neighbors. I don't know whether that's something that somebody will say about us and Tanzania of late, now that we've been having certain Twitter exchanges with the Tanzanians. But ordinarily, there is that pride, that nationalism that is actually brought, the regionalism that then is something that we should be looking at as a pro of sport. We've had the cons now where sport can also then turn violent. Way back in 1985, for instance, you'll find this player from Baruti Football Club. Baruti was a team that was from the 10th Engineer Battalion that was playing in the Kenyan Premier League, what we call the Kenya Premier League now. By that time, it was the Kenya National Football League. And they beat up a referee, for instance. So there is violence that can also come out of sport, because people have that, they feel that they need to win it at all costs. There are even more serious events that have taken place in the world. In 1972, for instance, during the Olympics, there were some Palestinians who went and massacred some Israeli athletes. That again it just shows you how a sporting event can actually turn to be into a horror show. So, and it's one of the reasons why, there is a lot of security now in sports facilities. We find that nationalism and pride that I talked about, the fact that when England is playing Germany, for instance, and the English fans are talking about how they've won 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup. The fact that, there is the sport on this side and the war on this other side. People are actually using sport as a way in which now, when you have chants, 80,000 people chanting such things in a pitch, I mean, that doesn't actually promote peace at all. There is also the case in Africa where Algeria and Egypt have had hostilities just because of football, where they've had when there is championships like the World Cup qualifying, people are trying to use all means possible to win their matches, and that leads to some countries even withdrawing their envoys from other countries. These are this is the bad side of sport. This is the bad side, the side that is the non-peace side. And it's supposed to challenge us now to look at sport as a way in which we can bring people together rather than now the other side. How do we minimize that? And I think Honorable Mwebu will speak more about this. We have a role to play, even as advocates and other professionals, to ensure that the role that sport is supposed to play to promote peace actually takes root. How do we do that? How do we, for instance, look at the nations that are not being peaceful nations? How is it possible, for instance, for us to take lessons from the apartheid, ban, where people were being told, look, if you are not going to do this, we are not going to allow you to play in sport? Or will that be now interfering with an alignment of sport? The other thing that we can do, for instance, our fourth estate, if you read some of the headlines, I was reading a headline when Kenya was going to play, that's the Harambee Stars, when they were going to play Gabon, I think it must be last year in the World Cup qualifiers, and you had this headline talking about the coach in a World Cup war cry. Basically, it's a way in which you're trying to make sure that the players bring their best, but is it a must that then you equate it to war? We have a way in which those words that I used, for instance, when matches are being played between nations, when they would be called friendly matches, nowadays you find people are trying to downgrade it. Now they're calling them exhibition matches, build-up matches. It's something that is, it may not be what is intended, but you see the consequence of it is that then you start finding that we play up to that issue of the war side of sports, being very competitive and not promoting it as a peaceful venture. I think we owe it to our people to educate them, to ensure that they actually look at sport as peace. If you attend local matches, and I do that a lot, you'll find, for instance, if a striker is on goal, he's going to score, and the crowd is shouting, "Ooh, ooh!" I mean, I don't know whether people actually realize that they are promoting what I would call warlike cries in a situation that is really unnecessary to be escalated to that level. We need to continue educating people to ensure that when the game is going on, they appreciate that sport is actually something that shouldn't be elevated to a war. We shouldn't, and I've had this experience where you find even hooliganism sometimes is promoted by people because they say, this is another form of us, just asserting our dominance over this team. They may have beaten us on the pitch, but let them not beat us off the pitch. That cannot be the way in which sport is being used within our country. There are very many other causes and trends that are actually happening at the moment. I think the one that I will talk about is the one by Arsenal, for instance. It's not even about war. Because of what was happening in London, there were a lot of deaths that were being caused by people being knifed. And what Arsenal will do is come up with a day that they would call No More Red. Even though they wear red shirts, on that particular day, they just wear all white. White is a symbol of peace. So to the extent that you can find a Premier League team is actually promoting peace, I think it is something that a call to us to just make sure that we are able to also promote, peace using sport. Let it not be something that is as, let there not be enmity. I remember there is a former chairman of AFC Leopards, James Wamia, who used to say that there's a difference between rivalry and enmity. I think that is something that a message that should come across, and especially on this UN Day that promotes sport and peace. I think it's something that is quite alive. We know, for instance, we live in very difficult times. There is a war going on in Iran at the moment, and that those are some of the distinctions that you can say, the contradictions of how sport and if you look at where the World Cup is being hosted this year, it's being hosted in the United States together with the other countries, Mexico. But yet at the same time, there are some people like from Iran who are now saying, now that we are at war, can we actually then go and play football in a country that we are at war with? I think it's a call to us to just look at sport from a more positive view, and then make sure that we use sports to promote peace. I think I can stop there. I do thank you for your audience.
Thank you so much, Honorable Murunga, for taking us back from the 1910s until now. And I especially love that you've actually highlighted this recent issue when it comes to whatever Iran is actually dealing with. And I don't know if this year's FIFA World Cup is going to happen. I mean, there has already been a lot of criticism. People are already comparing the songs, the chants, as you are saying. People are saying the French songs, the French song, the Brazilian country song, the various songs are basically very, very, they're literally war cries. So anyways, goes to, of course, motivate people, but also goes to show how, I mean, people do revel in their unique diversity. But then, of course, now let that not go beyond and actually cause enmity. We're living in very unique circumstances. Even the logistics of actually getting to the FIFA World Cup in the United States is proving to be a bit difficult, but let's wait and see. I think there's also the whole contention around I don't know if it's AFCON or CAF, where Senegal was the one that was supposed to win, but the win has gone to Morocco. That is already that's already another discussion that's going on. But yeah, thank you so much for highlighting the beauty and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to sports generally. But the most popular one that we know, which is football. And yeah, I love that discussion. And so I think the next bit we're going to go to is now the focus on diversity. And I can see George has been able to join. If you could just use a few minutes to introduce yourself, then we can go into the second topic. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My apologies, I had few issues logging in. My name is Jojo Doromondi, legal officer, legal aid. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. And so we are thankful that at least you've been able to join us. But I think I want to leave this for all of us to engage in, even as I welcome George to touch on this, because this is the third topic that we're supposed to discuss today. So as you prepare yourself, George, I want to throw something out to all the attendees here. So we've been talking about peace, and one thing we have to note is that sports is very diverse. We have different genders. We have, for instance, the Paralympics, right? For persons with disability. We even have different types of sports. So we recently came from the Winter Olympics. There are those that are done in the summer, marathons and the like. FIFA is also done. There's a whole calendar around sports, right? And so we want to see how. I think I would throw it to all the panelists to meditate on, even as which of course you'll come to answer at the tail end of the conversation. So what do you perceive, or what do you see are the needs of diversity, equality, and inclusion when it comes to any and all sports, be it darts? I did not know that there was a darts world championship. There's also another one. We have digital sports nowadays, so gaming. It's gaining ground in Kenya, and a lot of the youth are definitely in there. And so I would like to know, especially to the Sports Tribunal, is this something you're considering, especially should we have our own kids going out there to participate in gaming? So I know especially those who are interested in anime or interested in comics. You might have seen some of these movies being adapted. So, for instance, this year we have Spider-Man, we have Dune, we have Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy, and these are things that are actually competitively done. So, would you consider that a sport? For those of you who are in finance, there's actually an Excel championship. It's a very niche thing, but it exists. So, I think I would like to throw it out in terms of diversity of sports, both the physical as well as mental sports, looking at inclusion of different types of people, be it gender, be it different forms of disability as well. And yeah, what exactly do you think should actually how do you think sports would be far better in terms of inclusion? So with that said, I'll leave that to you as the audience to think and meditate upon, and then I'll pack that for now, and then I'll come back to it. And so, George, my question to you before I invite Honorable Omweba, how do you see the resolution of sports disputes? We've already established that there could be sports disputes, right? So, for instance, the win has already been given to. So let's say you're presiding over the issue between Senegal and Morocco, right? Senegal is the one that won. So it is said, allegedly. Let me not be, let me not quote that. I'm not a football fan, caveat. So I'm trying to give whatever it is that I know out there. Or let's say it's the Springboks versus the All Blacks, right? When it comes to rugby. And then we've established that there's a dispute between them. And so we are trying to establish a way to resolve and make sure that there will be peace, so that it doesn't mutate from it being a rivalry to it being enmity. So George, I would like to give you the floor to talk to us about the resolution of disputes as our wakili who practices in this field. Over to you, George. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Allow me to start by saying that where people gather, there must be a problem. And if there is a problem, how do you solve that particular issue? And in our justice system, I will say what we define as justice, especially as who operate under the adversarial kind of nature, it is you to prove this particular case. So if you allege, you must prove it. And what are needed for you to prove that particular case now in the sport sector? And this now calls the tribunal to try to set a balance between the one that is complaining, the one that has been sued, and also still strike a balance with peace, which in most of the instances, like the issue that you're raising of the Africa, the cup that it was given to these individuals, and then the other people begins to complain that it was never done properly. And you find if you look at the decision, they were doing it based on the conduct. And after the conduct, they are looking at the rules that guides the sport sector. And you will find that the rules that are there for the sport sometimes is not favorable to the one the case is made against, or the one that makes the case. So in that sense, will it still stand to serve peace when there is dispute? So to answer your question is, there is need for the sport tribunal to try to strike a balance. And we have few cases here. You find that what sport tribunal is asking is, yes, you have the invitation, but prove you had won the race. The case we have is of several athletes. So they are complaining, oh, we had won the race that day and we were never given an award. So the court is telling us, apart from the invitation, you must prove that you had won the case at that particular time. You had won the race at that particular time. And this thing begins now to disturb our clients. If we were invited, we ran, the race was concluded, the winner was declared. Why is court still inviting us to prove all this? And this thing begins to disturb them. And now, looking at the area of sport promoting peace, and they are looking at, we had invested, we had come, we did our exercise that were mandatory to be done, we won the race. But how we are not having peace in terms of compensation. So one thing is that the tribunal needs to strike, and maybe now we need maybe to amend the law just to include that, like, sport is not just a game, but it is something that now goes beyond game. It's something that promote peace. It is beyond recreational, but it goes to the social, economic of an institution, of an individual, that now includes their rights, includes the governance, includes justice system. So far, for me, I will say what tribunal does in terms of promoting peace is in addressing issue of sport. They are so much inclined to the law, what the law provides, and you must prove. And so sometimes when the case is not in your favor, you feel like, hey, this thing is not favoring us. This thing didn't favor us. This thing is not a good thing. So you will always be having problems with the one that the court ruled in the favor. So maybe they just need to strike a balance to ensure that as much as, yes, you need to prove in terms of evidence, but also there is peace that needs to be given away. Gloria, I don't know if I've tried to answer that question.
Oh yeah, yes. You definitely have. You definitely. I mean, it goes back to the very precepts of what's it called? Whatever we're taught in law school. If you have anything that you're alleging, you must prove it, and that definitely still stays true, especially if you're going to go before the tribunal. But I would also like to invite Miss Honorable Joy to come in. Not you, Joy Nasike, in case you're panicking. It's not you, Joy. Miss Joy, to come and perhaps also introduce her. Oh, sorry, yes?
And just to Glory, just to add something.
Yeah.
Especially when the tribunal begins to, like the Morocco one, you find that this case came after the decision, after I think 57 days. And you see sometimes sports carries the moment. So like at that particular time, the winning team had enjoyed, the fans had changed, and they had finished it at that particular point. And now a decision comes and say that now we have overturned the winning. You see, they didn't take into consideration that now sport goes beyond the recreational. The parties involved, the fans, the players, even the sponsors that sponsors this particular games. How will they feel that now we are overturning a decision that it was done in the field? And the question comes in that something that has been done in the field, why should it now proceed in the courtrooms where the match is not there? And that is what is different from employment and other, because sport captures the moment. So if it is the moment, are we able to solve the dispute within one day? Are we able to solve the dispute within that particular place? So our system still needs some adjustments, and even the international one. How are we addressing this just to ensure that peace is taken care of? Because if we have to promote peace in sport, then the grievances that the players raise, the fans raise, must be dealt with as soon as possible. It should not take time. It should not go through that process of legal, we have to prove everything. But can they just ensure that these things, because remember, apart from issue of funds or the winning thing, we have issue to do with contracts, disagreements. We have issue to do with disciplinary. We have and the issue of livelihoods. So it goes beyond, as I have played, I respect, or I expect to get something. Am I able to get this thing when I need it? So in the process, the question that we are raising, will the tribunal be fair? Will the tribunal be transparent? And why must I be taken through all this? So that we see a social justice. And if we see social justice in the decision, then there shall be a peaceful coexistence among the players, among the fans, and it will promote peace. But if we will not have a fair thing, then dispute. And when there is dispute, there is lack of peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, George. Very comprehensive, quite a lot for us to mull over and think, even as we go on with the webinar. And previously, I think whatever it is you said has actually just made me think. In Nairobi, we do a lot of marathons. So we have Lewa Marathon, though that is done, I think, outside of Nairobi. We have Stanchart Marathon. We have so many others. Perhaps there's a chess championship or a Scrabble championship or a golf championship happening within the country. Those are just some of the sports that we have going on within. And so I wonder now, if it's especially competitively done and people are to especially win a prize, how exactly would that go ahead to be resolved? Given one, perhaps there might be the fact that people don't really know that when the Sports Dispute Tribunal exists, even on matters of doping, considering that's a very biological thing that you need to check, and of course consolidate evidence around and all of that stuff. So I think off of the back of that, I think I would now invite Miss Joy Wanyika, Honorable Joy Wanyika, to come and share her sentiments on resolution of disputes, as well as, touching on the previous question I had asked, meditating on diversity, equality, and inclusion. I don't know if she's here, Honorable Wanyika. Honorable Wanyika, are you there? Try and see if I can find her. All right. It seems Ron, I'm not quite sure if she's on the platform. But that's all right. If she's not here, then I think we'll just proceed to the next bit, which is now a primary focus on what Honorable Victor was now to present on. I'll just quickly move to him, and then we can proceed and have a discussion about the other bit, which is sorry about that, which is don't know, trying to find the document. So sorry about that, Honorable Victor. Yeah. Just pulling up the question so that had written them down. So when it comes to sports, Honorable Mwebu, sports and peace. We've already seen that. I mean, the history that has been there, that Honorable Murunga highlighted. We have the disputes that come thereafter. Now, I think now to push us on to the next bit, which would now focus on sports and peace. How can now specifically now diving into that, how can sports actually now become a catalyst, or perhaps could prove to be a distraction when it comes to peace, especially given the examples that Honorable Murunga gave us. Honorable Mwebu, if you can hear me, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can share my
That's all right. We'll just wait for you to do so,
Let me
to share
try.
your screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I don't know if we have Wakilis here, especially those who are passionate about sports. Would love to hear your sentiments from you. Please feel free to flood the chat with your comments. Engage in the Q&A. The specific Q&A so that we don't miss it in the myriad of comments that might be given. I'm still waiting to see anyone in terms of diversity, inclusion. We have the question around, if you remember, Caster Semenya, who is perhaps an intersex person. It's not yet established as far as I know. And, it originates just like everything does from South Africa, the great country. It originates from there. So how does that reflect in terms of diversity and inclusion? So what do you think? There's also been it might be a bit controversial, but the push to keep particular persons out of women's sports, particularly trans women. What are your thoughts around that? You don't have to share that in the chat because I know it can be a very dicey question, but I don't know if that is within the mandate of the tribunal. I'm not really sure, rather. So I would encourage you to, let us mull over these things and see how integral sports actually is, because it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There is need for all of these things to be discussed and for us to see how, as much as it can bring us together, it can also tear us apart. Honorable Mwebu, are you ready now?
Yes, I am, but I'm having challenges sharing my screen. I'll just speak so that we don't get any delays.
Okay,
How many minutes do you granted me?
15 minutes thereabout.
Okay, I will
Thank
try.
you.
So maybe begin by stating that, can I have my camera off? I think my internet is a bit shaky.
That's in order. That's in order. Thank you. Yeah.
So in the context of our discussion today, I like to begin by confronting a timeless paradox. From the thunder of the Colosseum and the spectacle of the Super Bowl as an example for purposes of our discussion, you are well aware about the history of sport and entertainment in the Roman Empire. Romans would gather in the Colosseum just to see beasts tearing up human beings, gladiators fighting against each other and animals. And it was such a spectacle that distracted the masses from the deeper social challenges that demanded their attention. So today we examine whether these grand spectacles back in the Roman times and today in the Super Bowl are catalysts for peace and cohesion, or whether, like in the ancient bread and circuses in Rome, they risk distracting us from the deeper social challenges that demand our attention. So across history, many societies have always gathered around great spectacles. And the example that we have from Rome and today the Super Bowl, we realize that these spectacles put side by side provide a fascinating comparison, which shows us that both the Colosseum and the Super Bowl reveal the values of their societies. So sport in this context, when people participate in sports and they have these grand events, they reveal the true values of the societies wherein they take place. Both create unity, excitement, and identity. Yet one was built on coercion and political manipulation, while the other thrives on performance, capitalism, and media influence. All in all, together they show how sport, whether ancient or modern, is never just a game. It is a mirror of who we are and what we value and how we choose to entertain, unite, or influence our societies. A further example in the contemporary world will be the issue of hosting of major and mega events. Within the context of whether sports is a distraction or a catalyst for peace, we note that across the world, nations will compete very fiercely to host major sporting tournaments such as the AFCON, CHAN, the FIFA World Cup, and even the Olympic Games. In a great way, these events are not merely athletic competitions. They are geopolitical stages where countries project identity, legitimacy, and national pride. So that the desire to host these mega events is driven by a mix of motivations, which include economic ambition, global visibility, soft power, diplomacy, and in some cases, political distraction. So there's a global scramble that reveals a deeper truth of wanting to host these events, and this magnifies the dual nature of sports as both a unifying force and a potential tool for political theater. So most recently you saw we had a Pamoja bid, for example, for AFCON in our East African region, and you realize how the three East African countries put their best feet forward just to have an opportunity to host that particular event. However, some of these events can also function as powerful distractions for authoritarian regimes or politically strained governments. And historically, we have seen examples all over the world where there have been autocratic regimes that are riddled with governance failures that have taken advantage of this kind of events just to mask their inadequacies. The Olympics, for example, in certain host nations have coincided with human rights concerns, suppression of dissent, or aggressive nationalism. In some cases, the spectacle of sport masks unresolved conflicts. Stadiums will shine while the citizens face insecurity or inequality. Without being specific to any nation, you can quickly think of examples where we have sports infrastructure shining over and beyond the day-to-day struggles of the citizenry, which include also security and peace concerns. So the relationship between hosting and global peace is equally complex. On one hand, these events can promote diplomacy by bringing together nations that rarely interact, creating neutral spaces for dialogue and encouraging cultural understanding. On the other hand, they can inflame geopolitical rivalries, trigger protests, or expose social fractures. Most of the times, the winners of these competitions also shape national narratives. You can see from our discussion today, we're already discussing whether or not Senegal won or whether it's Morocco. These discussions arise from one issue: who won the competition? So victory can unite a country, a continent, the world, but it can also be appropriated by political actors seeking legitimacy or dominance. In this sense, hosting and winning are intertwined with national identity, political symbolism, and the global balance of soft power. So that regionally, at the end of the day, when finally there's a verdict as to who won the AFCON competition, it has a meaning in terms of the national identity, political symbolism for those who are the presidents of the respective countries at this juncture, and also the regional and continental balance in terms of sports power. So ultimately, the global competition to host major sporting events mirrors the broader theme of our discussion today, that sport can be a catalyst for peace when intentionally guided, but it can also be a distraction when used for political spectacle. So an example of how this can be misused is I'll come to that later. So having seen how powerful and emotionally charged sport can be, it is important for us to recognize that its impact is truly double-edged. So in terms of pulling entire nations together and for purposes of ensuring that it is a distraction or examples of distractions, you will note that when we have, for example, football matches, there is reported lesser crimes. When we have the World Cup events, for example, the FIFA World Cup, you will note that there are lesser incidences of crime during that period. But once the tournament is over, people revert back to their default settings and they start going back to their normal lives, and peace and stability becomes an issue that worries the law enforcement. On the other hand, as a catalyst for peace, a good example internationally when sport became a platform for unity, for dialogue, and for social transformation is in 2020 when George Floyd was killed by law enforcement officers, and the Black Lives movement began crusades regarding that issue. You will recall that in terms of sports, players and leagues worldwide implemented visible actions, notably taking to the knee before matches and donning Black Lives Matter branding. That's an example of a catalyst towards peace and addressing social challenges that would otherwise ordinarily not have a platform to be addressed. So this is why we must examine sport critically, not to diminish its beauty, but to understand its power. Sport is no longer just a creation, it is a social instrument. And as a society, we must ensure that sports works for us. It strengthens peace, promotes development, and reflects our values. Because if we are not intentional, we risk being swept away by the intensity of the moment rather than shaping the impact of sport for the greater good. There is a statement coined that from the philosopher Karl Marx. He had the statement that religion is the opium of the masses. In contemporary times, there's a statement also that has been coined that sports is the opium of the masses. And this phrase ideally captures the idea that sport can be used to pacify, distract, or emotionally absorb a population, sometimes preventing them from confronting deeper social or political issues. This quote also reminds us that sport is not inherently passive. It can inspire activism, as we have seen in the case of George Floyd. It can inspire unity and social consciousness, depending on how individuals and societies choose to engage with it. So at the end of the day, it can either numb or awaken. It can fuel riots or prevent them. It can also silence voices or amplify them. The real question is not whether sport is powerful. It clearly is, but whether that power is being used to suppress critical thought or to mobilize communities towards peace, justice, and meaningful change. Shifting gears to how our political actors have utilized sports for the greater good of the nation or their selfish desires, we have the example of the Super Eagles from Nigeria. In the year 1994, they won the AFCON tournament. And the president then, Sani Abacha, who had ruled Nigeria from 1993 to 1998, and a military dictatorship marked by repression, censorship, and silencing of political opposition, promised them that he was going to award every player a parcel of land. And you see, this was a promise made in the heat of the moment, a gesture designed not only to reward the team, but also to associate his authoritarian rule with national pride and sporting success. So in a system where public dissent is dangerous, such symbolic acts help soften the image of the regime and redirect national attention toward moments of collective celebration. Yet, even in the delayed fulfillment, because Sani Abacha left, but his promise was honored decades much after his death. And this example shows to reveal how dictators often use sport instrumentally rather than structurally. The land pledge was made in the heat of victory, but it was never institutionalized or prioritized, reflecting a pattern where autocratic leaders just leverage sport for immediate political gain without building sustainable systems to provide athletes or national development. We have an most recent example to contrast with that. This year, the DRC, the president DRC, gifted each national team player with a brand new car after DRC secured qualification for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. This act by the president in DRC mirrors the very same political instinct seen during the Sani Abacha era, And just like Sani Abacha's land reward promise to the Super Eagles, this act demonstrates how leaders, regardless of geography or political system, understand the emotional power of sports and use moments of national triumph to reinforce unity, legitimacy, and public goodwill. These gestures, while symbolic and highly visible, are strategically aimed to align political authority with national pride, showing that sporting success remains a potent tool for shaping public sentiment. So while both of these leaders that we look at as example from Africa capitalize on sporting success, Abacha's approach highlights how autocratic systems can manipulate sport for distraction, whereas the DRC gesture illustrates how modern governments still use sport to shape the national mood, but within a more transparent and accountable context. If used in that manner, then it becomes a catalyst where there are issues that peace need to be addressed. So moving further, while we acknowledge and appreciate that sport can be manipulated by political leaders or used as a distraction, we also need to appreciate that there have been global initiatives. For example, the United Nations recognizes sport as a driver of the 2030 agenda. And in so doing, that there's a shift from seeing sport as a tool that can be misused by power and using it to uplift societies, heal divisions, and accelerate sustainable developments. The International Olympic Committee has also opened pathways for education, vocational training, and employment for hundreds of thousands of young talents. And in that regard, sport has become a classroom without walls, teaching discipline, teamwork, leadership, and resilience. Of course, the net effect is that there is an impact on the world peace and peace initiatives. Back home in Kenya, the KDF, for example, has the Kenya Defense Forces Sports for Peace Football Tournament in Kiunga, which is an example of a powerful show of how sport can bridge divides in regions affected by insecurity by bringing together youth from across Lamu County. The initiative has created neutral, emotionally safe space where dialogue, mentorship, and trust can grow. In most recent Kenya's history, in 2008, when 2007-2008, after the post-election violence, the Kenya witnessed one of the most powerful demonstrations of sport as a unifying force. Communities that had struggled with trauma, mistrust, and displacement had football tournaments organized by local peace committees and NGOs. And in places like Nakuru, Eldoret, Kibera, peace marches brought together young people who had been on the opposite side of the conflicts. In northern Kenya, particularly in Marsabit, Isiolo, and Turkana, we have football and athletics repeatedly being used to ease tensions between pastoralist communities that have been affected by cattle rustling. Down to the coast region, we have youth who have been vulnerable to radicalization and recruitment by extremist groups. Sport has been used as a strategic intervention to redirect energy, build identity, and strengthen community ties. Football leagues in Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, often supported by civil society and religious leaders, have provided alternatives to idleness and frustration. And finally, in the refugee committees in Kakuma, we have also had the tensions among diverse communities fleeing conflict in South Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, and the Great Lakes region. Football leagues and athletics programs by the UNHCR and partner organizations have helped to reduce conflict within the camp by promoting teamwork. There is an aspect which I want to touch on before I conclude. In Kenya today, you will note that our politicians, mostly during election cycles, have these tournaments. You'll have an MCA tournament, football tournament, or a governor's cup, or an MP's cup. We have observed over time that these particular tournaments might not necessarily be built or engaged in for purposes of peace building. They are sometimes mere distractions and used for selfish gains, as Abacha did. So we need to see how we can foster a culture whereby our politicians use these tournaments towards peace. In some instances, they have actually been used for peace initiatives, but it is not as broad and substantive that we can now claim that it is something that we can talk about. Second last, as I conclude, there has been a lack of support of our athletes in terms of financial capacity. We have many examples of athletes who have shine on the world stage, having struggled through their own means, and it is only upon the moment when they win on the global stage that the government seeks to recognize them and acknowledge them as citizens who have flourished. Yet, at the very first instance, there has been little or no support from the government. So in conclusion, it becomes clear that sport sits as at a powerful crossroads. It can build bridges, break barriers, and open pathways to peace. Across Kenya and across the world, we have seen sport heal wounded communities, united divided groups, and empower young people who might otherwise be left behind. Our task, therefore, is to ensure that sport works for society, not the other way around. When guided with integrity and purpose, sport becomes more than just entertainment or a distraction. It becomes a national asset, a diplomatic tool, and a bridge across the divides that weaken us. That is the challenge before us, and it is also the opportunity we have now to ensure that the future of sport in Kenya and across the world depends on whether we choose distraction or transformation. The choice is ours. I have tried to gloss over my very long presentation, but I hope that I have managed to capture the pertinent areas for today's discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Mwebu. Yeah, I agree. You have actually really gone deeper, and I love the live examples that you have given. And you have also, in a way, preempted the discussion that we're going to have next with our next panelist, who is Faith. Which, I mean, it can be, recognizing that, sports can be used as a tool for unification, but also a tool for PR, so to speak. I was just talking with Michael on the chat, and I will not lie, up to, I think, a couple of weeks ago, I was not aware of the problematic history that Argentina has. There was a declaration, I believe, a declaration that happened about the transatlantic slave, which touches primarily on people of African descent. And the three countries that abstained were the the European countries abstained, I mean, for reasons we all know, and the countries that rejected the declaration or the resolution generally were the United States, Argentina, and Israel. And so it was rather, I was like, why would Argentina do that? And so I was sensitized by a friend of mine to actually go and look into the history, and I went down a rabbit hole, and as say, I was not happy with what I got to see when it comes to Argentina. So a summary of it is that a third, back, I think a couple of decades ago, a third of the population of Argentina was Black people. Right now, they are not basically 0 point something, and so that goes to show there could have been very decisive quote unquote genocide of Black people. There have been historical connotations around the same. And, the one thing that we all know Argentina for is, I'm sure we all said it, Messi, right? So Messi has been the greatest export of Argentina, and he's really helped whatever it is that Honorable Mwebu was alluding to when it comes to matters to do with soft power, and we should not underestimate the use of soft power when it comes to that. And very many other people. I mean, even Kenya itself is in some way trying to position itself, and when it comes to the hosting of AFCON, or is it CAF? I'm not quite sure. I stand corrected, but we should not ignore the role that countries are using to do that. I mean, there have been promises that we could hold or host an F1 circuit in the country. I mean, let's hope that comes to happen. I know who wouldn't like, to see all these cars. We already have the Subaru, so I mean, going a distant further would not be anything too much. But I mean, we recognize the the strength that sports plays. And I think at the end of it, there's a documentary I'll share with you that really also highlights the role that sports plays, because it featured prominently in that said documentary. But anyway, with that said, I would like to welcome Faith to discuss with us, since already Honorable Mweba has highlighted the discussion around the SDG goals that we hope to achieve by 2030. And so what role does sports play when it comes to sustainable development generally? So over to you, Faith. And you already teased a bit of your conversation, so I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that. So over to you, Faith. If you can hear me, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Glory. And very true. Most of what I'm going to talk about has been mentioned here and there, but okay, let's go. So you see, guys, when we talk about sport, we often think about competition, talent, and entertainment. But what we need to know is that in the spaces I work, specifically with refugees and displaced communities, sports actually means something very different. It usually means safety, belonging, healing, and sometimes survival. So this is because many displaced persons usually tend to view sports as a tool for peace building, protection, and justice. This is because for them, sports is not just about loss or the trauma that they faced. It's more or less showcasing their ability despite their circumstances. So as I build on the work we do at the Forced Migration Program in Kituo Cha Sheria, I'll give you a practical example. So during the World Refugee Day, we usually take part in community engagement initiatives, whereby we've seen matches, football matches, bringing together refugees and host communities, and actually streamlining relations between the two mostly warring communities within the forced migration space. This has actually helped us break barriers in terms of ensuring our programming works by bringing everybody together. The one aspect of sports that people usually oversee is that of mental health and psychosocial support. So from a mental health and psychosocial support perspective, sport is usually deeply transformative, and many displaced persons usually, sorry about that. Yeah, so many displaced persons usually turn to sports to help them deal with trauma, prolonged uncertainty, social isolation, and issues like that come out of a lack of durable structure. So with sports, it helps respond to all these challenges and actually come up with a structure or a frame for which the refugees and the displaced communities can rely on to deal with the issues that they face on a day-to-day basis. So in terms of sustainable development goals, I'll specifically focus on 4. That's the SDG number 3 on health and well-being, SDG number 4 on quality education, number 5 on gender equality, and SDG number 16 on peace and community resilience. So when we talk about such sustainable development goals, what we need to bring to bring to your attention is that sports is actually a tool for peace building and psychosocial support. And in terms of health and well-being, we need to know that, give me a minute, something's happening with my machine.
That's quite all right, Faith. That's okay. I think in the is your device okay now?
Give me a few minutes. It's something has just popped up.
Okay. Yeah, happens with technology, I guess. Um, so I think maybe now, as we wait for you to come back on that, I would like to bring us back into the conversation with Kenya, with regards to Kenya. Just let me switch on my camera a bit. Yeah, so I would like to direct us to. Article 10 of the Constitution, which touches on national values and principles of governance generally. And I think we've already highlighted or teased out some of the things that, sports actually does contribute to when it comes to matters to do with national values and principles of governance. And so Article 10.1 says that, okay, let me go to 10.2, so to speak. 10.2 focuses on the national values and principles of governance include, which is the one that I'll primarily focus on, patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. And I think generally all forms of sports definitely do seek to bring that back, bring that about, considering we're focusing on development and peace. Also borrowing from the next batch, which focuses on human dignity. Okay, I can see Faith is ready. So even as I wind up, human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination, and protection of the marginalized. And of course, now there's also good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability. And finally, sustainable development. So I think next I'll talk of Article 11 and the focus on culture, but for now I'll welcome Faith to wind up her, her presentation, and then we can definitely go into the Q&A session of the webinar. Thank you so much. Over to you, Faith.
Okay, thank you, Gloria. Sorry, guys, for that. Something happened with my machine. Anyway, so as I was saying, when intentionally designed, sports can become a measurable driver for sustainable development in Kenya and in the world. So in terms of SDG number 3, it contributes by design. This is what I mean. In terms of mental health and psychosocial support in displacement settings, many individuals usually experience trauma, uncertainty, loss of routine, and social isolation. And through our work, we've noticed that sports is a place, is an avenue for them to restore structures to daily life, to create safe and predictable spaces, to allow for nonverbal emotional expression, and it helps rebuild confidence and a sense of identity between both the displaced communities and the host communities, being Kenyans. And this has actually helped in maintaining peace within the refugee hosting communities. And in terms of SDG number 4, that's quality education. Sports contribute to education, not in the formal sense, but in an informal learning system sense, whereby it instills disciplines like it instills things like discipline, teamwork, leadership, and resilience among the young people. And we've seen that to be a very positive aspect of sports, because from, say, the students that are in Kakuma, the learners in Kakuma, we've seen improved attendance in their school initiatives. We've seen them and a great uptake in life skills training and mentorship and peer learning. So yes, scholarships and education and things facing in regard to sports is actually a very key initiative in terms of SDG number 4 on quality education. In terms of SDG number 5, that's on gender equality, we need to know that sports can actually advance gender equality, but this is not automatic, because in many displacement contexts, girls and women actually face cultural restrictions, safety concerns, and limited access to public spaces. So for sports in SDG number 4, it must be very intentional. And for it to be intentional, then we must be champions to create a safe and accessible environment for women and girls and the minorities within the programs that we work for. We should also consider things like female coaches and mentors to bring about inclusion for the populations that are usually left out. When we're inclusive in our programming and inclusive in our sports initiatives, then we can see an increase in participation rates, a retention in whatever it is we're going to be giving to the communities, as well as an uptake on leadership roles between women, girls, and the minorities. In terms of SDG number 16, that's on peace and community resilience. In my work during, say, the World Refugee Day, we have seen how sports creates a neutral ground where people can interact without tension, and it brings together refugees and host communities, different nationalities, different social groups, and in that shared space, identity begins to shift from refugee and host to more or less like team. So that's a powerful tool to shift the narrative in terms of cohesion, integration, and inclusion. Sports in this sense can also be used as a mobilization tool where most people are, it can be used as an incentive to mobilize people to and a call to action to a specific outcome that we might want to put across. In terms of the strides we've made as Kenya, I don't know if you guys know this, but the National Olympic Committee of Kenya and the Refugee Athlete Scholarship Committee have come up with scholarship opportunities for refugees in preparation for the 2028 Olympics. So this is a good push towards inclusion, towards giving refugees a voice in terms of having a say. So we've seen an uptake of refugees in activities like judo, taekwondo, athletics, and football. And these are things that primarily were never done by refugees before. So it's more or less a shift towards the right direction as a country. And we look forward to having more collaborations in such kind of activities. We also see sports as a tool for work in terms of, you see, Kituo has been having a campaign on refugees' right to work. And for us, as the Forced Migration Program, sports is one of the tools towards access to decent work for refugees, whereby we might have to think about more progressive modes of discussing refugee athletes or sportsmen in the Kenyan context, whereby we can be able to negotiate for better contracts for them, give them more awareness in terms of access to tools like the tribunals, because you see most refugees are not fully aware about the tribunals. Then this then creates a space whereby the refugees can now be given access to like a knowledge awareness session to know about the tribunals, their rights, and how they can defend about their rights. So in essence, what I'm just saying is that yes, sports in SDGs is basically a development tool for refugee programming frameworks, and it helps to give access to the barriers that refugees usually face. It can also be used as safeguarding tool, and with this, it's easy for us to measure outcome and impact of activities we put across, because as we all said, as all the other previous people have said, sport is actually one of those tools, a very fundamental tool. Yes, okay, sorry. Yes, that's all for now.
Okay, thank you, Faith, for that. And I love especially the aspect on the right to work that you've highlighted, considering I mean, we do have, I mean, there's a Shirika plan and all that, but in terms of, let's say, the right to work for refugees. So, I mean, we know we're a host country for very many refugees, some from Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda. Okay, not sure if we really have any from Uganda, but there could be. South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. There's actually been an influx of Eritrean refugees. There's also from Somalia, others from Tanzania, probably. But yeah, we are a host country for very many refugees, so to speak. So we know that when it comes to marathons, our main competitors are Ethiopians, truth be told. So what if an Ethiopian actually has the talent, is willing to be a has been seeking refugee status and eventually become a citizen of this country? But what if their means of earning a living is actually through sport? How exactly would that be delved into? We joke around often about how tall our South Sudanese brothers and sisters are, but it plays a very big role in terms of basketball. Like, for them to be able to dunk, you need to be tall. I can tell you as a short person, okay, I call myself fan-sized, but yeah, for me to be able to dunk, it will take a lot more effort as compared to someone who's much taller than me. So what if a South Sudanese uh, person actually has the talent to represent our basketball team? I've noticed there's a very huge uptick when it comes to basketball. We have a whole couple of NBA courts across the country. So what exactly does all of that entail? And what exactly will that necessarily reflect and look like? So I hope you're gaining a lot of knowledge, because I know I personally am. I have learned quite a lot from the panelists. And so now, it being 20 minutes to the top of the hour, okay, well, 19 minutes and a couple of seconds, rather. Actually, it's now 18 minutes. I would like to now go into the Q&A session. I noticed that there's a question that was sent by Esther in the chat. I'll proceed to ask that first. I had posted my own in the Q&A session. And so I believe this question, perhaps Esther, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is directed to Honorable Mwemba and Honorable Murunga. And Esther asks that in practice, when does a matter involving a minor shift from the sports tribunal to the children's court, like when now does jurisdiction, if I may say, cross over from that to the children's court? And are there frameworks to actually integrate AJS or community-based dispute resolution for young athletes? So I think I would pose that question to our various honorables. I don't know who would like to begin. Honorable Murunga or Honorable Omweba? Sorry.
Thank you, Glo. Let me take that.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of what I call either student athletes or athletes who are minors, you see, the Sports Disputes Tribunal is a specialized tribunal for sports matters. So long as something is sports related, and as I mentioned, sports related means something, relating to sports, even if it is for the minor, then we would be able to handle that. And we have, the usual, confidentiality is maintained, especially in cases for student athletes or athletes who are minors. So all that and all the other provisions of the law that apply would also be maintained. The Sports Disputes Tribunal is a subordinate court under Article 169 1D of the Constitution. So we still have to follow, the court proceedings, the processes and SOPs. But when it comes to minors and it is something to do with sport, then we will just look at the sport angle only. If there is anything else that is beyond sport, then that now falls outside our jurisdiction. If it is an issue about custody, for instance, for the athlete, that has nothing to do with the sports tribunal. But there are certain elements of let's assume, for instance, let me talk about football, for instance. In football, we have something called solidarity payment, where if a player is being transferred from a team to another, then they're supposed to, the team that trained that player from the age of 13 to the age of 21, 22, they actually get some solidarity payment, 5% of the, of the transfer fees collectively. Then that is also broken down now with the specific years. So you'll see now it will mean that if somebody was playing for a youth team at age 14, 15, then there can be a controversy about that relating to the minor. But just to pick up with what Faith was also talking about, issues of safeguarding and all that are actually something that the tribunal also handles. And then in respect of AJS, Section 59 of the Sports Act actually provides for us to use those methods of dispute resolution, whether it's mediation, whether it's arbitration, conciliation. So we actually also adopt those because there are moments when we look at the athlete, if like it's a minor, and then we know that there is a long-standing relationship with that particular sports organization that they're having a dispute with, then we can actually get something that is more friendly. I usually say that it's not even alternative dispute resolution, it's appropriate dispute resolution because that is appropriate for that particular age. I think that's it.
Yes. You've answered the question. I mean, at least to me, very comprehensively. Thank you so much for that. And I think there's a question I had asked myself. Now, in light of, I'm not sure if we're hosting AFCON or CAF next year. I mean, I think if you've used Ngong Road, you might have already seen the Talanta Stadium, which has been since renamed to honor the late Raila Amolo Odinga, who I was very surprised to see that he used to play football. I was like, wow, oh my gosh. So, I mean, sports knows no age. I guess it's only that they choose to put the age there, the age limit that is there because of the physical matters. But then I think my question to both you and Honorable Mwebu would be, do you foresee any issues coming up, especially with the hosting of AFCON? Comparing to what have you learned from whatever is happening with the US, Mexico, and Canada vis-a-vis Iran? And do you see anything happening with Kenya at that point? Also, looking at the context in which we'll be heading towards the general elections, and that the hosting of that could actually be used as a sports washing event. So maybe to you, do you have any thoughts on that? And it's perfectly fine if you'd not be comfortable answering the same, since it's a very dicey and political issue. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think when we start talking about sport washing, yeah, that takes another angle, and as judicial officers, we try to steer clear from there. But the point again is AFCON is not really something that I mean the tribunal will be involved in certain aspects, like for instance, if there is a selection issue for Kenyans, that is to the team, that could be where we could come in. But there are also international federations like CAF. They have their own dispute resolution mechanisms, and those are the ones that would apply in case like there is a dispute. So and I think I had somebody, I don't know whether it was Michael or who, or even George, talking about like the Senegal Morocco issue. You see, there is a dispute resolution mechanism for those sort of disputes, and a lot of international federations actually have those sort of resolution mechanisms. What is supposed to happen is that they are then supposed to all flow into the final one, which will be the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The Court of Arbitration for Sports was set up by the International Olympic Committee, and it is really something that is owned by the, by the sports organizations themselves. And it appoints, arbitrators from all over the world. I think Kenya has one arbitrator in that court. And those matters can then be heard from there. and sometimes I think if I can just take up also the issue of time, I agree with somebody who mentioned that you need to have then these matters resolved very quickly, and that's what actually happens. Sports matters, especially if it's a tournament, you can't have the luxury of taking too long to decide. We've had experiences at the tribunal where somebody comes to the tribunal and says, I need to, the team is leaving for the Olympics, if it is the Paris Olympics in 2024, and we need to travel, so then you have to make the decision very, very timelessly. Now, even the International Olympic Committee itself, if I can refer you to the case of, there was a case of gymnastics where there was a dispute between USA and Romania. I think there's an athlete called Jordan Childs who had actually been awarded the bronze medal. Okay, after an appeal had been filed, and then it then went back to Romania. One of the things that was actually being looked at, and I was very amazed at that, was that the appeal needed to be filed within 60 seconds of the of that performance. And actually the argument was the US was saying they filed it within 47 seconds, but I think it had been recorded as having been filed in 64 seconds. 4 seconds, because of the 4 seconds, the appeal was being thrown out that it had been filed out of time. So sports matters sometimes have different sports, of course. I don't think football has that kind of time frame. But the fact that there is a timely, there's a time frame that is being set, then it also just, it's important then that decisions then also follow very quickly. And that is why sometimes we encourage people to come to the Sports Disputes Tribunal, because that's what we do. We only handle sports matters. But we've seen cases, where some people have actually gone to other forums, and then it takes longer. If you look at the case of swimming in this country, for instance, I think there was a case that was filed in 2021 that is still in the High Court, but that was a case that if it had been actually been confined to the tribunal, it would have already been resolved by now. So we try to just make sure that matters come, we have a time frame. I think in doping matters, we have a 60-day time frame in which to hear those matters. So it wouldn't take as long as the Senegal matter, and you can see even now that the appeal has been filed. I think a decision might actually be rendered in December or something. So there's a bit of challenge in terms of how quick these decisions have.
Thank you so much, Honorable Murunga. I don't know if Honorable Mobu, you have anything to share or to add on to that.
I think Honorable Murunga has set the record clear. The rule of thumb is that the owner of the event organizer owns the rules and the dispute resolution mechanisms. It is strange that in sport you bid to host and even financially contribute, but the rules are not yours. So those are some of the strange things in sports, but that is it. We will have no say in CHAN or AFCON. Just to add one thing, you had initially asked about the disputes involving minors. I just want to highlight that under the framework of the primary schools and secondary schools, the Ministry of Health, together with the Kenya Secondary Schools Association, KSSSA, have a dispute resolution mechanism. So most of those disputes involving minors and sports in minors will be resolved within the framework of the Ministry of Education. So you rarely find much escalating towards a sports tribunal.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, because never, when you were in high school, you see people going for sports, but you never really thought of, in case my high school, let's say the Alliance High School, since they're turning 100, let me pick on them now, yeah. Since the Alliance High School, perhaps would have an issue with Mangu, or one of the minors has an issue whatsoever, one would never really think of the resolution of such disputes. But yeah, it's really great to see that there are various mechanisms, and I hope people have learned something here. And I think now I'll throw these questions to, considering they're quite, truth be told, political. well, whoever the host of the event is asking, okay, many footballs in Kenya are formed along ethnic lines, right? Which can fuel tribalism and can be a serious threat to our development and peace. And so, what is the tribunal perhaps doing to do this? So, for instance, there was a goalkeeper known as sorry, I also recall goalkeeper Matasi's gambling issues, with some saying that sisi tunajaribu na Waluya wanatuangusha, reflecting his poor record with Harambee Stars, and so including in the last AFCON campaign. And this can show how tribalism can amplify frustrations. So even as we prepare to go back to Honorable Murunga and Omwebo, perhaps I would invite George and Faith to shed some bit of light on the same and advise us on what they think about the tribalism issue, considering, I mean, we always hear about the Mashemeji Derby. So it's always Gor Mahia versus AFC Leopards. I don't know if there was a match over the weekend. I remember seeing some Ganyas around. So yeah, over to you, either George or Faith, to answer this question furtherly before I give it over to the members of the tribunal. George, Faith?
Yes, Glory.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. You see, one thing I've been asking myself was in the issue of resolving dispute and who resolved it. In terms of football, should we put someone who has experience about football or about that particular sport to solve this particular dispute? And what are being used to just resolve this particular issue that has arose? Because the way I'd said, that where people gather, there must be issues that are there, and how do we go about it? So in terms of tribal lines, for me, I've seen that players do not have issues. The ones that have issues are always fans. And at one given point, I think fans were banned from just participating. And you find that people started saying the game is not good, the game is not nice because the fans are not there. So in terms of tribunal handling this, because you will find that maybe the chairperson there maybe is not of your tribe, and mostly they are guided by what the law provides. So they will restrict themselves on the law and try to address the issue that is at hand. And I think maybe where there is always an issue is this high school sports. And I remembered when I was in high school, you will find that the tribunal there, or the ones that are allowed to make a decision, will make a decision either being influenced by the board of that particular school. So in terms of tribe, the tribunal, for me, I know they will be restricted on what the law provides, and they will make decision in line with that. And when it comes to now, maybe the fans that are the ones that brings problem in terms of dispute resolution. And one thing that also is being encouraged is alternative dispute resolution, because you see, both parties will be called, they will be sitting down, and they give what is working for them. And you will find that sometimes court adopts this thing because after that, it brings peace, and the parties are able to just do it appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George, for that. Faith, do you have anything to share in addition to that?
Yeah, in addition to what George has said, the example of Patrick Matasi and the reactions around Harambee Stars actually highlight how quickly performance issues can take an ethnic dimension. So This actually, I think, underscores the need for strong institutional messaging and accountability so that critiques remain professional and do not slide into the harmful generalizations and the realm of ethnicity and tribalism. So maybe while the tribunal plays an important role in addressing all this kind of disputes where discrimination arises, I don't think confronting tribalism is one of their main core mandates, but I think it might take a proactive approach between the tribunal, the Federation of Kenya, Football Federation of Kenya, and other stakeholders to just educate the masses on the implications of what their critiques might have in terms of the general sports fraternity. Yeah, I think that's what I can say about that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, especially for highlighting how for both of you for highlighting that the issue one most likely might reside with the fans and not really with the players themselves. And even when now tribal things start, tribal tensions start rising, then while it might not be within the jurisdiction of the sports tribunal to deal with that. I mean, it's there to enforce the constitution, and under the constitution, of course, unity is a paramount thing, and so it would be amazing for them to see that. So we have 1 minute to the top of the hour. I'll encourage. I will invite Honorable Murunga and Honorable Mwebu to make their final comments, and then we can go to Faith and George as well to wind up.
Honorable Mwebu, you can go first.
Yes, let me go first. Chairman always concludes. So,
Yes.
I just want to first of all clarify: we don't have ethnic football in Kenya or ethnic clubs. We refer to them as community clubs, if you must. There is nothing like ethnic clubs in Kenya or tribal clubs, as I have heard somebody talk about it. The tribalism, as and when it might show its ugly head, is from the fan base rather than from the owners of the club or the players. So there's nothing unique about having community clubs. It's a worldwide phenomenon. It only happens that in Kenya, we have about 2 or 3 or 4 clubs, for example, in the Premier League, that seem to have their origins from a particular block. And when you have that strong connection with your community, you are likely to be visible in terms of support and also the noise, in quotes. So to that extent, if we took the Premier League, which is the top tier flight of Kenyan football, which has about 18 clubs, you'll find that most of those clubs, more than 75%, do not belong to any particular community or do not reside in any particular county. So to that extent, I'll want to disabuse that notion. Football in Kenya, the way it's structured, even the rules, is not supposed to be ethnic. Regards to, I think the other question, Chair, will deal with it. So my conclusive remarks will be that thank you very much for this opportunity to share about matters of sports and how it can impact on peace initiatives. I think we have so much to say, but the time is limited. But this is a good start. Kindly let us build up on this and have much more events and opportunities to share. There's so much we haven't said, especially regarding the opportunities within the dispute resolution mechanism of this tribunal and the other IDRM mechanisms that are outside the scope of the judiciary. So thank you very much for convening this very engaging event. Kituo Cha Sheria, we hope that this won't be the last. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I can assure you that yes, this is just but the beginning.
And so I forgot, my name is Omwebu. It's you. You just pronounce it in the African manner.
Omwebu, okay. And now I get it. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for mispronouncing it. I'm so sorry about that. Yes, I would invite now Mr. Honorable Murunga to close up on the on the dispute tribunal part. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Just to add on to what Honorable Mwebu was talking about, yes, I believe while we talk about community clubs, we also need to appreciate that communities are different. You have different types of communities. You can have a geographical community, and I think that is what happens with especially the football teams in Europe. They have a certain community. If it is a town, they then come together, and it's something that the tribunal doesn't really have a say to it. What happens is we deal with matters that come before us. But we shouldn't always look at things maybe from that negative side. I know, for instance, there's a football team in Spain, Athletic Bilbao, which has something that they call the Cantera policy, that just means that they recruit players who are just from the Basque region. The region where they come from is Basque region. So either those ones who have been born there or those ones who have actually been trained there. So there are people who have those sort of policies, but maybe when you are looking at it from our constitutional dispensation about discrimination, about people being left out, that is something that could probably come up. But for now, I think what had happened in this country in 1980, 1979 rather, when the tribal groupings were banned, I think that also affected sport. In fact, there's usually this hilarious story about how a team like Gor Mahia tried to change the name so that they become Gulf Olympic Rangers, so that they retain the same acronym, but they just remain Gor, and that's what happened with Leopards, which converted from Abaluya Football Club to All Footballers Cooperative. That's the full name of Leopards, All Footballers Cooperative Leopards. Just a clever way of retaining the the same acronyms, and but then if you look at if you are to examine this, you might find that there might be other things below there. I should just make a full disclosure. I was a former Secretary General at AFC Leopards in my past life before I joined the tribunal. So those are some of the things that we had to contend with. But then when you join the tribunal, of course, and just to pick up with what George had said, we follow the Bangalore principles about integrity, about independence, about impartiality, about equality, so we make sure that those things are the ones that make us determine the matters that come before us. I don't have to be a golfer to decide a matter in golf, though, of course, the spectrum of the tribunal is that we have somebody who is, like, for instance, the deputy chair is actually a former team captain in a golf club. I've been involved in sports administration, in soccer administration. We have people who have also been involved in rugby. But the fact that they actually have that experience in sport, it then means you can actually make a decision even in another sport. We are also allowed to bring in experts in that particular sport. If somebody comes to talk about karate and says, oh, this was kumite category, this was this, we can actually bring in somebody who can then explain that to us maybe as an expert witness. So we are able to, what is important for us is the dispute resolution ability that then the Judicial Service Commission is tapping into. But let me also just mention something that Faith said that I thought was very important, because it also then just got me thinking when she was talking about the refugees Olympic team. I know this is something that came up in, I think, since the 2016 Rio Olympics. And I'm not sure whether there are any people who have come from Kakuma or any other of the places in Kenya that have taken part in that, but it's something that is quite growing. I think the numbers have been going, I think in 2016 we had 10, I think in 2020 we had 29, the last Olympics we had 37 refugees that were actually competing under the refugee Olympic team. But when she talked about it, I actually started wondering whether the tribunal has actually handled any matter of somebody who is actually not been selected in the refugee Olympic team and then they are based in Kenya. But it's something that we can always just look up. But as a tribunal, and to conclude, it's for us to be available to dispense justice to all in the realm of sports. If people have any dispute that is sports related, then the tribunal will be able to handle those matters. I liked what Glory was talking about, the Article 10 of our Constitution, whether it's patriotism. We've actually had to hold in one matter I think there was a dispute on swimming, where there was a federation that had been, a committee that had been formed, and it did not have Kenyans. And we were saying, are you actually not flouting, because now a sports federation that does not have Kenyans, like if it has a Ugandan and a South African, are they then going to be the ones who can select the best Kenyans to then go and represent? Those issues of patriotism actually came up. The issue of good governance that is under Article 10 also is something that we have also been promoting. If you look at the decisions that we gave last year, most of them were tailored towards that. Out of 102 cases that were filed at the tribunal, 53 were governance related. So that also just shows you how people are also really taking up the issue of good governance. The people who are governed, they want to make sure that those people who are running the federations, anybody who is running a sports organization, then is running it in the most in the best way possible, so that then you don't have issues that usually come up. But I do appreciate again the opportunity just to reiterate what Honorable Mwebu was mentioning, that we then need to continue, the partnership that is there between Kituo Cha Sheria and the Sports Disputes Tribunal, and we look forward to the next engagement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. And we really appreciate the sentiments you've shared and the information that you've shared today as well. It's been such an enlightening session. I think I'll welcome now George and finally Faith to give their sentiments. And then now we'll be able now to wind it up, because it's already 10 minutes past. We hope to finish in the next 5 minutes or so we can release everyone to go about their evening. George, over to you.
I'll start by saying that sport is a good thing. It promotes peace, and also it makes people to just exercise. But we need just to see, if there is a problem, how is the problem solved? And beyond going to courts, are we able to just do some counseling? Because you see, it is issue to do with human rights. And sometimes when we engage, I was looking at the boxing, that was last Sunday, this of Majembe and someone. So you find that both of them had that issue of, I want to win, and I will be getting those prizes that were there. And after 4 rounds, or during the 4 rounds, the other one sustained injuries, and the judges have to declare that, you see, Majembe, now you have won. And both of them had fans. So in that particular one, how is the issue addressed? Are we going to declare a winner there without resolving or giving regards to the fans of the other player? So for me is one thing, that if peace must be promoted through sports, are we able to address all these issues that comes during a dispute? And being time is of essence, how are we going about it? And in the dispute resolution, are we only dealing with how the match was conducted? Are we restricting only to the laws that are there, just to ensure that by the end of the day, these both parties can still promote peace, and one of them or the other party will say, this thing was not for us a must-win thing, but it was an issue of us exercising our talent, and beyond exercising our talent, so-and-so was awarded as a winner. And if so-and-so was awarded as a winner, I can still cheer them. So it is something that we need to look into, especially our laws, the issue of the tribunal. Are they able to just propose an amendment across different sports that are there. The timeline for maybe the football, for the boxing, are we able to just resolve them in either 2 months, 1 month, so that we can get things if they are still okay and people still enjoy the results that they wanted. So it was a good forum, and also just getting to learn from the honorables, especially on how it operates. And because also we were just wondering, especially when a client, several clients was sent to us, and you have to take up the matter, and they insist they have a case. And so at what, if the tribunal is referring, at what given point the tribunal can refer a case? And when a case has been referred, how long should it take? So it was a good forum, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, George. Yeah, we'll be able to, I think we'll redirect people to engage with us on our social so that we can redirect them to the places that they will need information, especially around the sports tribunals, but the sports tribunal and how it was established under the Sports Act. But yeah, we'll be able to share all those links thereafter. I think, Faith, over to you. And then now we can wind up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Glory. So from a forced migration point of view, it will be important to note that sports will not end conflict on its own, but in spaces where people have lost homes, identity, and stability, sports can rebuild the very foundations upon which peace is possible. Because sometimes the simplest acts like passing a ball, joining a team, or wearing the same jersey can remind us of something we often forget, that before labels, before borders, we're all human and we belong. So in light of all this, thank you, Glory, and the team for this webinar, and I look forward to more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wakili Faith and Wakili George, for those sentiments. I believe I am sharing my screen at the moment. And I've just noticed that, Michael, I missed your question on the issue of poaching. I think it goes down to, normally, if I may just touch on that and maybe answer it pretty quickly, even countries poach other countries' talents. So unless it becomes perhaps a governance issue or something that falls within the jurisdiction of the court, I think it's not illegal to poach people from another community. I mean, after all you're focused on is particular outcomes and outputs. And if they meet the metrics, then yeah, and it even helps with integration, so that, a team is not just fully comprised of people from one specific, perhaps, ethnicity, and, goes ahead to give a particular look of the football club. So, yeah, I'm currently sharing my screen. I hope you can all see it. It's a documentary that I would encourage you all to go and watch. I watched it a while back, I believe a couple of years back. It used to stream on Showmax, but I don't think it's there. It won an Emmy, and it featured various people. Ignore that. But if you can go and watch it, you'd be able to see how, as you can see, you could see that sports, played a very central role. I don't know if it's Tottenham and Arsenal that never see eye to eye, or I'm not really sure, considering the towns that are there in the UK. But bearing in mind that, as much as they don't see eye to eye, when there came a particular issue that was going to affect the entire football fraternity, then they all came together regardless of whichever club they were supporting, and were able to go ahead and ensure that representation happened accordingly. So it was actually done by Steve Spielberg and Alex Gibney. It's very science oriented, but it's a really, really good documentary, and you get to understand the reason behind why people do the things that they do, why they behave the way they behave, and check the motivations around them as well. So I think with that, it's 17 past the top of the hour. Yeah, and I can see that Faith has already actually answered my call there. It's 17 past the top of the hour. We thank you so much for staying with us even as the meeting spilled over. Thank you for your engagement. We hope we'll see you for others. So please be on the lookout on our socials as well as those of the judiciary, should we have another collaboration around the same. And if you have any particular topics, please feel free to go to our socials and comment on the chat, whatever it is you gathered from this, any discussions you'd like for us to have. And I would just like to emphasize to all of us that Kituo, we offer legal aid Monday all the way to Wednesday at our head office along Oledume Road, off Agwiks-Kodek Road, and in our Mombasa office, which is near the Technical University of Mombasa, and would be more than happy. You can walk in between 8 and 9, get yourself registered, and then we'll be able to listen into your complaints. And should it now be, and you can even go to the Sports Tribunal and get a referral to us. That also works as well. Just caveat, we only deal with civil matters. We don't really handle criminal, but yeah, if you need any kind of assistance or redirection, then we'd be very happy to offer the same. So with that said, thank you so very much for making time. Please enjoy your evening, and feel free to share your sentiments, and we hope to see you in the next one. So all the best with everything, and we wish you a splendid rest of the week, considering it just started yesterday. So thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your week, and God bless. Take care. Bye. You're free to leave now, in case you are wondering. Thank you so much.